As a startup, you do what you got to do to get going. That's fine. Everybody does that. That's natural. But there is a time where you have to stop and look and go, okay, now how do we take this to the next level?
Yeah.
Right? We can't keep doing the copying and pasting thing. We got to start doing our own thing.
Well, and there's positioning, I think, is where most of the mistakes happen, because they don't have a market position. They don't have anything to own, anything to create distinction. And we study a lot of positioning strategies at the agency, and have a big list of different approaches. And Tesla, like, one approach is a disruptive positioning strategy. Tesla is a great example of that. That type of positioning requires very, very high level conceptual thinking, and really a first class execution. It goes against disruptive brands, and there's a lot, let's face facts, in B2B tech, go against industry norms. And that is how ultimately they create that disruption. But in a lot of these situations, most not even a large percentage, many CEOs feel that the product is so good that it's going to sell itself. And again, back to, if it's unclear, if it's inconsistent, if it's self-serving, if it's not really meaningful to the audience, it's not going to make an impact at all, and you won't achieve your goals.
100%. And that mindset comes from a misquote from Peter Drucker. But what Peter Drucker actually said is, when you know your customer so well, the product will end up selling itself. But the context around the customer is what's left out.
Right.
And that is customer research. That is insight.
Exactly. And when you know them that well, then the go-to market strategy is something completely different than if you are, if you've got missionary work or competitive intercept or something like that, that needs to take place. I think another area that ties into asking better questions is understanding if there's a revenue issue.
Yes. And, when there's revenue issues, again, this is where marketing timeline has to be like, if there's any one thing that an up and coming marketing leader can take away from this discussion, is educate your leadership team on marketing timeline, because the expectations we have don't align, especially when it comes to what we expect marketing to do and how quickly we'll want the results. Typically, it's within 2 to 4 weeks, and that's just not realistic. In B2B, especially, the bigger the ticket item is, like an enterprise, you're looking at years instead of months before anything happens. I mean, B2B Tech Institute just published this a few years ago, and the average tech purchase is every 4 years, right? So if you missed that particular procurement schedule on that particular client that you're after, well, you've got another 3 or 4 years you have to wait to get back on their shortlist.
Yeah. One thing I love, and I'm actually looking up something that I want to share while we're talking about this next section, and it's not coming up for me. But one thing that you and I both agree on as well is that people don't necessarily understand what the true business issue is that they're solving.
Right. Yeah. And again, that gets right back to insight again, right? Where when you know who your customers are intimately, and you know what their pain points are intimately, and you're following up with them regularly, because things change. And let's be honest, the what you hear from your customer today may not be the same thing you hear from your customer tomorrow. So this is why we have to constantly be in communication with them. And the other thing too is, especially like surveys are okay, but it's better to have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Because surveys, a lot of people lie in surveys, right? But to get back to what you're saying about revenue and accountability, if you've got that documented, you have your customer's ideal profile, your audience profile. A lot of times we don't think of the audience that we're actually selling to, right? Procurement teams aren't usually one person. It's usually multiple people, right? And what does that audience makeup look like? Who's the champion on that procurement team, right? Knowing what that is intimately, knowing what their pain points are, and also what their motivations and their fears are is absolutely critical to crafting the right messages, being unique in your positioning, what April Dunford calls differentiated positioning, and differentiated value.